Hello everyone. Thank you for coming once again today. Yesterday we dealt with a revision class on range and pasture management. So today we move on to livestock production and health. This is still a revision class. So when we're talking of livestock, we're talking of all the animals that are reared for production of meat, milk, and etc., so that the farmers could make profits. So when we talking or trying to manage these livestock, we have to consider housing them. Where do we house them? Why do we house them? We also talking about things like beds, the broilers, and the layers. So the housing structures of these animals differs. So we will first start with why is it important to house these livestock? We have to house these livestock, one, to protect them against theft, two, to protect them against diseases and harsh weather conditions like the weather, the sun, the snow, I mean heavy snow, heavy rainfalls, because these things affect livestock. We also trying to have controlled breeding and controlled feeding. So we can only do this when we housing livestock correctly. We can only do this when we put these livestock under certain houses. We are even able to control them or protect them against the sun rays, against cold weather conditions. It is very important to protect these livestock from these conditions. So when we house these livestock, we know at home we have sorry, we have calls where we keep our cattle, our cows, our horses maybe, and donkeys. They are even kept in stalls. A stall. They are sometimes kept in stalls. So we keep livestock in stalls. We also need to have structures like milking parlor. A milking parlor is where cattle are kept so that milk could be harvested from them. In a milking parlor, we could use the milk goes directly to a certain large container that can also act as a refrigeration. So the milk is clean, doesn't have any diseases. We are able to take control and prevent diseases and germs from contaminating our milk if we use a milking parlor to milk these cattle. So we also have another structure that is called cattle crush, a cattle crush. We also have another one that is called a cattle dip. In a cattle dip is whereby we dip our livestock in order to um, protect them against the diseases. We also have cattle um, spray spray race, a spray race. A spray race is whereby um, it is also a modernized kind of a dip, but in the spray race, it's like a corridor or a passage whereby livestock will enter from one passage and run in the corridor to another passage. And when they are still running or going through that passage, this passage has nozzles. Nozzles, when we are talking of nozzles, I think you will remember irrigation, where we have sprinklers that have nozzles that spray water. So in the spray race, there are some nozzles that are implanted on the walls. So when the kettles are running through the spray race, those nozzles spray these livestock with a mist of water that is mixed with the chemicals, maybe for treating the ticks or whatever diseases that a cattle has to be treated with. So we also have a calf pen. A calf pen. A calf pen is where calves are kept when they are still young. In a calf pen, these calves that are kept in a calf pen, they do not suckle directly from their mothers. The milk will be taken and implanted somewhere in 2 liters where these calves will be released from their calf pen to go to that place and suckle from those containers. The reason being that the germs sometimes, sometimes when the calves are still suckling, they could transmit diseases into the kettles through their mouths when the mouths are suckling from the teats of the cow. So that is prevented by taking the calves and placing them in calf pens and then milk, putting milk inside those 2-liter containers for those calves to suckle directly from the containers, not directly from the mothers. So we also have pigs that we have to house. Their houses are different from the houses of the kettles and the houses of the birds. So a house of the pigs, sometimes we can keep pigs indoors. Sometimes we can also keep pigs outdoors. But when you as a farmer keep the pigs outdoors, you have to be very considerate of the shade. There has to be shade, maybe the trees. You have to plant, there has to be trees nearby so that the pigs could go there under the trees for shade. You also need to have a fence, a tough fence around that place so that the pigs could not go astray or anywhere where they want or get lost. One thing that you have to be considerate of is that when you keep pigs outside door, it becomes very difficult to manage them. It also becomes very difficult to feed them and to control their feeding. It also again becomes very difficult for them to put on weight quickly. So then it means you will take longer time to get your pigs to the market. Another thing that we have to be considerate of is when you keep pigs now indoors. If you keep pigs indoors, there has to be roofing. You have to use corrugated irons to roof those pig stays. You also need to be very careful that you are protecting them against harsh weather conditions, rain, snow, hail, and other harsh weather conditions. The walls, I think you will remember yesterday when we talked of materials that we need to use when making the structures or the houses of the livestock. Actually, we were talking about materials to use to house livestock. So the walls of these pigstays have to be very difficult. The floors have to be made of concrete. The floors need to be made of concrete so that they become very difficult. They become difficult walls. And it becomes very easy to clean walls made of concrete. Now, when we house pigs, we have to be careful that there is enough space for these pigs to move around. Maybe it's a pig stay whereby a sow or a boar is going to stay. So bear in mind that a boar, you will bring a sow into the boar's pig stay for mating. So it has to be big enough. There has to be enough space so that the boar could exercise its duties sufficiently when there is enough space. You also have to bear in mind that there is ventilation. You need to have ventilation inside that pigsty. You also need to be very sure that the walls are strong, the doors are very strong, because a pig will use its snout to uplift or damage the pigsty. So the doors need to be very difficult. There has to also be feeding troughs in that pigsty. Feeding troughs, drinking troughs, they need to be there. You also need to be very careful that a bedding stays where it's dry. Because if a bedding stays where it's wet, then it means your boar will have diseases. Now we have to also um, house we have to also house poultry. So the conditions that we need to be very careful when housing poultry differs from those that are considered when housing cattle, and they also differs from those that are considered when housing pigs. So when a farmer rears or produces poultry, he or she has to bear in mind that there has to be a steady supply of eggs. We can also produce or rear poultry or birds outdoors. But if you keep them outdoors, there will be thieves who will steal your eggs. There will be predators which can steal your eggs too, or damage your eggs. Now, if you are a farmer that's producing under contract, maybe you have a contract with Pick and Pay or ShopRite or any other, even your school. So your school needs 50 eggs per day. Now you are hoping that you have 50 eggs in that day. Then a thief came to steal your eggs, or a predator came to take your eggs. Now you cannot meet your contract principles or of supplying 50 eggs because a predator came and stole your eggs. So now you will be breaching contract. So it's always better to keep poultry indoors because you are sure that you have steady production of eggs. You are sure that there is enough ventilation or a good ventilation in your pigsty. And again, you are very sure that you can be able to handle your poultry in the house. So bear in mind that when you handle these broilers or these birds, you have to handle them differently from how you handle a calf or a cow, and how you handle a pig or a sow or a boar or piglets. You handle the birds with their wings, and you handle the pigs or the piglets with their hind legs, so that they become calm and do not cause trouble to you. So you handle the calves with the horns. Now we go to care and management of these animals, of these livestock. How we have to care and manage these livestock. We will start with how to care for piglets, young piglets. Actually, how to care and manage young livestock. So we'll start with how to care and manage piglets. So we'll start with feeding first, where the first thing that you have to bear in mind is that piglets, from one day, first week, that is first week, to the second week, they are not supposed to be feeding on solid rations. They are not supposed to be feeding on solid rations because their digestive system is not yet used to those solid materials. Their digestive system is not also used to water. So during that time, they can only drink from their mother or from the sow. They can only feed on creep feed. And you have to make sure that a sow does not have access to that creep feeding, to that creep, because creep is only meant for the piglets. So this is to say that your sow has to be placed inside a farrowing pen. By the time you are sure that your sow is going to give birth to piglets, you have to place it inside a farrowing pen. A farrowing pen is a small sized pen where only a saw can stay in there. Then this is to say that the piglets, when it's giving birth to the piglets are going outside that pen. So they only come closer to the pen when they are coming to suckle. And the feet for that saw are directly placed near to that farrowing pen. But the crib feet for these piglets is placed a little bit far from the farrowing pen, so that by the time the piglets want to go and eat, they go far away from the saw, maybe even against the wall. Yes, because there will be a globe placed from above that crib feet in order to give warmth to these piglets. So in that way, then you will be guaranteeing that piglets or a saw does not eat, does not have access to crib feet. It only eats its feet, not that which is meant for the piglets. One thing that you have to bear in mind is that during this first day to 3 or 5 days, you have to inject or vaccinate your piglets with iron injection, because the piglets are born with an iron deficiency. So what you have to do in this case is that you have to smear. It's either you vaccinate these piglets with iron injection, or you smear the teeth of a pig with an iron sulfate. Why? So that by the time the piglets are suckling, they can also ingest that iron together with their milk. That they can also ingest that iron sulfate with this with the milk. Now, one thing that you have to bear in mind is that these piglets, when they reach their second week, from that 6 weeks from that second week to 6 or 7 weeks, then you change the feed and you give them starter meal, because you gave them crib feed from the first to the second week. From the second to the sixth to the seventh, you give them starter meal. Why? You want them to grow fast. You want them to grow fast and to easily digest this crib feed. This is why you give them crib feed the first week, because you want them to grow fast. You want them to easily digest this food. You also want to introduce them to the meal that you'll be giving them from second week to seventh week, which is starter meal. Now, at this time 6 to 7 weeks or 8, then it is the time where you can wean your piglets. It is the weaning period whereby you can wean and or separate them from their mother, or separate them with the saw. Now, after this starter meal, you have to give them a fattening meal, a pig fattening meal. You have to give them a pig fattening meal. Then from giving them a pig fattening meal, you can also give them a breeder meal. You can also give them a breeder meal. I used to give my pigs during this period boy and saw. But if you don't want to use boy and saw, you can use a breeder meal. Then from this breeder meal, for lactating pigs, you can give lactation meal. You can give lactation meal during this period. So another thing that you have to place in mind when producing these piglets is that you can sell your porkers. These are young piglets. You can sell them when they weigh 45 to 55 kg. Their pork is very nice there. It's very delicious. It's very palatable, and it's very expensive. So you need to sell your porkers during that time. Another thing is that you can sell your baconers at 70 to 90 kg. Now these are big pigs. Then there comes the castration period, where you have to castrate these piglets. Castration, I know you know castration. So castration, you have to castrate these pigs at when they are 10 to 20 days. Because if you cannot do that by that period, they will severely bleed. So in order, you don't want your piglets to have to bleed to that extent. So you can castrate them when they are 10 to 20. And then after castrating, disinfect those cats with an antiseptic powder. Even for tail docking, after docking the tails, disinfect those cats with an antiseptic powder. It keeps the fleas away. When it keeps the fleas away, it makes sure that there is no rotting and there is no contamination of diseases. Then after this, you have to consider again teeth clipping, cutting the teeth. Teeth clipping, piglets are born with eight. They are born with 8 little teeth that are very sharp, and they can cut the teeth of the sow during suckling. They can also bite one another's tails, and then diseases pass through that process. It's easy to contaminate or to cause diseases during that biting, because when the piglets are biting one another's tails, the tails are, they do not have a feeling. They are feelingless. So the piglets do not feel any pain. So they will not run away or cause anything. They will just stand by. And then the others will continue biting those tails, and then diseases will pass through that process. So make sure that you perform these processes: tail docking, teeth clipping, and then after that, then it's weaning. That I said you do it at 6 to 8 weeks. Normally, the piglets should be 11 kg by then. So when you wean these piglets, you do not remove the piglets from that pigsty or from that pen, because they are used to it. You only can remove the sow from that piglet and take it to another pigsty. So for now, we are done with these ones. We will continue with the calves, and then we'll continue with the chicks, care and management of young livestock. The next class, we will continue with how to manage and care for calves, and how to care and manage chicks. Then we will continue to livestock nutrition. I hope you listen to that video too, which will be taken soon after this one. Thank you very much. I also think that you enjoyed the past 2 videos that we have already done. Thank you very much. Meet you then.